This video is designed to demonstrate the difference between spring tide and neap tide. Okay, on the left hand side we have our sun, then we have the earth, then we have the moon, and we can see our fisherman over here experiencing night time at the moment. He is also experiencing a high tide. So if we go to the bar chart, you can see that the tide is 20 feet. Feet because it's an American simulation. If I press play and just go a 5.5 hours later, you can see that the tide has gone down to 10 feet. And you can see on our simulation on the left hand side, he's experiencing a low tide because there's less of a bulge here. There's no gravitational pull from a moon or a sun here or here. So as a result, we have low tides here and here. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the simulation for 14 days in total and show you what happens to the tides. So as we're graphing here, you can see that the range between high tide and low tide is roughly 10 feet, and the moon is just leaving the spring tide position and heading towards a neap tide position. Okay, the simulation's been going for 4 days. You can see the graph is slowly changing. The high tide is getting smaller and the low tide is getting higher, so the tidal range difference is decreasing. Now, on the 7th day, the moon will be in a neap tide position where the actual sun, earth and moon are at right angles. At this situation, we have a very, very small tidal range. This is a neap tide. As the moon starts to move around towards the sun, it'll become a spring tide again, and the tidal range will increase. You can see on the graph now, the difference between high tide and low tide is getting bigger and bigger. Now we're up to 13 days and the moon is nearly in line with the sun and the earth again, and this is when we have a spring tide. Once again on the graph you can see that the actual high tide and low tide are quite far apart and we have a large tidal range. So the space of 14 days we could have 2 spring tides and 1 neap tide. Obviously this changes each month. So in summary, when the earth, moon and sun are in a straight line, it is a spring tide. The tide difference between high and low is quite large. When the earth, moon and sun are at right angles, as you can see that is occurring right now, it is a neap tide, and there is a less of a straight gravitational pull. The gravitational pull of the sun and moon cancel each other out and we have a smaller tidal range.